We all know Pawn Stars has had a long history of the guys scoring the most amazing and historical treasures. But there are some events in the show where we see that not all customers tell the truth and scam the guys on the show. So let's check out times Pawn Stars got scammed. The fake Napoleon letter.
This is a letter signed by Napoleon himself.
This guy walks into the pawn store with a letter in his hand, which he calls the Napoleon letter, with his signature on it.
I'll give you $2,000 for it, man. That's the best I can do.
Corey looks at the letter very carefully and considers it a real deal. He tells the seller how much he thinks he can pay for the deal, which is $2,000.
I didn't pay that much for it, so let's do it.
The seller agreed on the amount that Corey told and got ready to close the deal on $2,000.
It's supposed to be an original document signed by Napoleon.
What Corey should have done before, he's doing it now, and that is getting the letter checked by an expert to see if both the signature and the letter are real, or just another scam.
There were a number of copies that were probably made on the battlefield because Napoleon dictated it to his secretaries. So if you've got one of the original copies that would have been written out on the battlefield, that would be priceless.
The expert tells Corey a little history about Napoleon and how he used to dictate the situation going on in the battlefield to his secretaries. The expert calls it a real deal if the copy of the letter is original.
This is not one of those original manuscript copies. Can't say that this is worth very much as a historical artifact.
However, the expert does not think that the letter is an original manuscript and thinks that the document is fake.
The COA fooled me. It's fake.
Corey, why don't you take it home and remind yourself not to be so damn stupid?
Corey got scammed big time, and there's no undoing to it, and this is what the old man thinks too. The fake comic books.
I have my uncle's comic book collection. This was handed down to me.
Pretty cool.
This blonde lady walks down in the pawn shop with her late uncle's comic book collection. Chumley, who's at the counter, looks at the book collection and feels excited to have them.
To get somebody down here that knows what they're talking about.
Dude, I don't need Paul. These are comic books.
Chum dives deep into the collection and ignores his colleague Antoine, who suggests to Chum to call a comic book expert before he makes any final deal.
What exactly are you looking to get for him?
I'd like to get $2,000.
At first, the lady asks for $2,000 when Chumley asks the lady how much she wants for the book collection.
I'll give you $50 a box.
I don't want no parts of this if you don't call Paul down here.
Chum makes an offer of $50 for each box, making it a total of $350 for the deal. However, the seller says that she can't go lower than $500. Chum asks Antoine, but he still insists on calling an expert down.
Life is about chances, and sometimes you just gotta take them.
Chum eventually decides to go with the $500 price.
Really cool stuff.
Yeah.
You got First Taskmaster, First Nova, Red Hulk, some good stuff.
When Rick got to know about it, he calls an expert in for the evaluation of the comic book collection. However, things didn't turn out well after what he said next.
Stack I pulled is probably $200 retail.
Other couple hundred pounds of comic books are worth?
5 cents a book if you're lucky. It's like it's common stuff.
It was later found out that 18 of the sets are worth $200 and the rest of the collection is just 5 cents for each book. As per the expert's opinion, the collection is not worth a lot of money.
You spent $500 on some comic books I'll be lucky to get like $180 out of, and 7 boxes of the recyclable paper. So they're basically worthless.
Chum got scammed by the customer, and Rick doesn't like it very much. The fake Indian vest.
Sioux Youth vest. I believe it was made in about 1890.
You want to pawn it? You want to sell it?
I was looking to sell it.
The pawn shop is again on the edge of getting scammed when a seller walks into the shop with an Indian vest in his hand, hoping to sell it for a good sum.
I was looking at 1800.
You're asking a lot of money for a baby's vest.
Upon being asked by Rick, the customer tells him that he wants to sell it for $1,800, which Corey thinks is a lot of money for a baby vest.
Would you go 14?
Meet you in the middle at 13. That's what I could do.
All right, I'm gonna go with that.
Rick makes the deal final at $1,200, but the seller doesn't seem to agree on it. He then tells him that he can make it $1,300, which the customer agrees on and closes the deal.
It's Northern Plains beadwork. Unfortunately, I don't think this is from that time period.
Rick calls in an expert to get his thoughts on the vest. It was found out that the item was not how it was told.
It's basically a fake.
No, I wouldn't say it's a fake. I think it's Indian made, but it's made for sale. It's not made for use.
The expert tells Rick that the item is not fake though, but it is not made for use, but to sell.
The Indian vest would have turned out to be real. Here, it's Mark Hall patent. That Indian vest you bought is actually real. Hey, Mark, what's up? Nope.
Corey makes fun of Rick because it's something rare for Rick to get scammed like that. If you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Now, back to the video. The Gibson Mandolin.
Gibson Mandolin.
This seller has brought a Gibson Mandolin to Chumley in the pawn shop with the aim of selling it at a good price.
Hey, Rick, Corey, Rick.
Chum tries to call one of the Harrisons to have a look at the item, just to make sure that the item is not fake, but no one's around.
From the early 1930s. Gibson mandolins are sweet.
Chumley starts examining the item on his own, not realizing that he's making the same mistake again. That is, not consulting anyone.
You can see the craftsmanship on it is phenomenal.
This is authentic.
Upon having a look, Chumley believes that the item is in good shape.
I actually have a spinning limit of $1,000, $1,300.
$1,895. I mean, you see the shape it's in.
I'll go 14, and that's pushing the barrel.
$1,500, and we got a deal.
15 sounds fair. I can make a profit.
The seller asks for a price of $3,000 initially, but Chum thinks $1,000 is a fair purchase for an item like this. After some negotiations, the deal gets final at $1,500. To find out if he's made a good deal, he goes to the expert, Jesse from Cowtown Guitars.
Cut out with some scissors, and it's not even a G that Gibson ever used. And the finish is like plastic. Gibsons are covered in a lacquer finish. This is fake as hell, man.
Jesse looks at the mandolin very carefully and tells Chumley that it is not what he thinks, and that the Gibson's logo and the finishing is just covered in the plastic. He tells Chum that the item is nothing but a complete fake.
Yeah, maybe about $100.
I hate mandolins.
Jesse assumes the price to be not more than $100, which tells that Chumley actually lost $1,400, which is huge. Shoeless Joe Jackson book.
Signed by Shoeless Joe Jackson.
It's the rarest sports signature, period.
A seller walks into the pawn shop with a book signed by the renowned baseball player Joseph Jefferson Jackson, also known as Shoeless Joe Jackson.
I'd like to get like $30,000 for the book.
I'll go $13,000. I won't go a penny more.
Okay.
The seller initially wanted $30,000 for the book, but Rick made an offer of $13,000, which he accepted and closed the deal.
This signature is real. This is by far one of the craziest things you brought to me. So what I have here is one of the only Joe Jackson signatures that all the authenticators can agree upon. This A here he was struggling with. This one looks like a pretty normal A, and then the K here goes straight into an O, whereas this, the K, he tries to do the loop. I'm not convinced that it's real.
Rick then calls in the signature expert to have a look. Upon clear analysis, it was found out that the signatures were not real. But things could be changed if Rick gets a general agreement from the authenticators to certify.
So it's not real?
Well, no, I'm going to send it off some more people. I'm going to try and get a consensus on this thing.
Several factors became apparent during our thorough examination that prevented us from certifying the autographs. The entire small case E in Joe's first name has been erased and signed over the original.
However, the decision was not something Rick had hoped for, making Rick get scammed one more time. So what are your views on these scams? We'd love to hear from you in the comments. If you enjoyed watching the video, don't forget to subscribe, and for more such videos, click right here on your screen. See you in the next one.